Hello, and welcome to my bootleg Ignite talk. This was inspired by a Newsgiest talk from my friend Brian Boyer from many years ago. It's something that I've written about, and in fact, some of this talk will actually be me kind of cribbing from past blog posts. But I wanted to collect the thoughts, and again, writing a blog post about it just doesn't feel like what I want to do. My friend's talk, Brian Boyer from many years ago, he talked about craftsmanship, and it's sort of journalism 101 talk. Journalism is a craft. We're storytellers, and we must learn the art of storytelling. But what is craftsmanship? A great craftsman creates something that is useful, right? It's functional. It's the chair that is both beautiful but molds to your butt perfectly. If it doesn't do the latter, then its beauty is pointless, right? So in journalism, we've spent about 100 years working on our craft. But during that time, there was no need to talk about the art of journalism. Now, I'm contrasting art here with craft in that it's not about making something functional. Art is about saying something. It's about making a statement. Sometimes it's even about making a statement to the artistic community itself on what art can or can't be. Is that toilet art? Yes, and here's why. Art is an ongoing conversation about institutions and processes and our relationships to them. For most of the 20th century, that conversation didn't happen in journalism. And for the last 20 to 25 years in the journalism community, I would say it's the most important muscle that we've started flexing. In its infancy, we asked, are bloggers journalists? And today, organizations like the Washington Post and New York Times, or startups like Harkin and the now shuttered Circa or This, create products that ask much deeper questions about what it is that we do and the process we should undertake to report and create and share content. What is the article, right? Can we do this without the inverted pyramid? What is our relationship to the audience, etc.? This art versus craft concept is one of the metaphoric backdrops by which I often think about my own career and how I navigate our ecosystem. The projects I work on have a bit of craft, but I also want them to have some art. I want the projects I work on to make a statement. The product shouldn't just be enabling the creation of content. Even if it's well-crafted content, that isn't enough, right? The product should also make a statement. And here, for me, product is like the medium by which you work. Perhaps the product itself is a manifesto, right? Even in an endeavor I work on ultimately fails, the statements work on, right? That's the study of art history. We move past certain moments in art, but the statements live on and actually help the conversation move forward. A thought on manifestos, right? So Vox, 538, and more have gotten into the habit of writing manifestos, much like the New York Times did when it launched in 1851. These manifestos are essentially their critique of the press in action, right? These manifestos feel like the result of an organization sitting down on a psychologist's couch, talking about their metaphorical parents and writing how they intend to deal with the feelings of abandonment and shouting, I will be better than them, right? And there's some sort of catharsis there. Manifesto writing is important and helpful, and each of these projects spilled plenty of digital ink describing their goals, but it's the product that speaks the loudest or makes the artistic statement, right? It's the product and action that defines what these projects said to the larger industry. Vox's stacks are more poignant than the video where Ezra Klein talks about how the web can change things. Writing a long article is how you critique a specific act of journalism, right? Think about like ombudsmans. And that's incredibly valuable, right? But a long manifesto won't reimagine what we do. Creating a new product is how you critique the press today at an institutional level. That's how you make a statement on what you think the future will feel like. Startups that don't succeed as businesses might succeed within the larger community, right? Sometimes they are acquired, but sometimes their practices and principles get adopted and absorbed. I put Circa in this category. Even though it failed as a business, the ideas it pushed forth have inspired action at places like the New York Times and BBC, right? Little fish get eaten by bigger fish, and that's just sort of what happens. Another metaphor I use to think about my career, and I think it applies to most people, is that of a musician, right? Again, a musician can put out a cohesive piece of work, right? Like an album, something artistic, or they can work on somebody else's album, and they can put out a piece that is pure pop, right? A well-crafted song or something more artsy. I should also note, there's no right or wrong here about art and craft. It's all about what the musician or the artist wants to accomplish and work on. Sometimes you want to work on a piece of pop music. Sometimes you want to work on something that you feel like bears your soul, or again, makes a statement to the larger community. Most people in the journalism community first learned about me because of Spot Us, right? That was my first sort of solo album, if we use this music analogy. Spot Us was about making a kind of artistic statement to the journalism community as much as it was about funding journalism for the world. In some respects, Spot Us was more art than craft, right? The journalism we funded directly was good. Some of it was even award-winning, but nothing was boundary pushing. What stopped and got people's attention about Spot Us was the mechanism by which the journalism was funded. It was a statement. Now, with Advanced Digital, I'm in more of a producer role, right? We're working on different projects. The biggest right now is Subtext. But each project has a mix of art and craft. Some will be more artsy, others perhaps more craft, and each strike a chord in some kind of genre or space. In the producer role, I take a little bit more of a backseat. It means once the recording is done, I'm not necessarily the one to take the music out on tour, although I'll still have a stake in how it's received. So far, it's been a really awesome ride, and most importantly, it allows me the space to think about what it is I'm working on and how it makes a statement. I write all this because I think everyone can think about their career in terms of art and craft, and in terms of, again, I'll use this musical releases, right? To be fair, the music metaphor can be switched. I can imagine somebody talking about their career like that of a movie producer, right? Working on some indie art films or some blockbuster hits. Again, indie art films here is a stand-in for artistic, blockbuster hits, more pop. Think about your own career, right? How does it fit into these ideas? Have you put out different albums? Do you feel like you've worked on things that have more art or craft, etc.? Lastly, what do you think about this as a model of getting thoughts out there? It's the kind of thing that I think can just be a lot of fun and quick and easy. It's not hard to put this together, and it allows me to feel like I can get a full idea out as opposed to just a tweet and somehow I can't seem to blog anymore.